Every kingdom is built on promises. Some are written in law, others in blood, but all of them demand a price. In the realm of Arathorn, where steel wrote history and crowns weighed heavier than hearts, one promise would ignite a fire that no army could quench. It began with a man and an oath. General Clint Draven, a warrior carved by war and scarred by victory, once saved the kingdom from ruin. In the smoke of battle, the king had sworn him anything, land, gold, honor, anything, for he had preserved the throne itself. But debts to men like Clint are dangerous debts, for soldiers do not forget, and generals do not forgive. This is a story of crown of debt, sword of love. The kingdom of Arathorn was carved in iron and fire, but it had nearly fallen. When the northern warlords swept across the borders, burning villages and butchering soldiers, the throne trembled. The king, old, cunning, and fearful, had watched his armies crumble. It was then that General Clint, a soldier who had risen from nothing, saved the realm. He gathered the broken men, rebuilt them into an unbreakable wall, and led them to victory. At the final battle, Clint stood on the blood-soaked plain, his armor shattered, his sword red to the hilt, while the enemy king lay dead at his feet. Arathorn was saved. The king swore an oath that day before the court and the gods, "Ask of me anything, Clint Draven, and it shall be yours. You saved my crown, and I am in your debt." Years passed. Peace returned. But debts never vanish. And when the time came, Clint named his price. "I have served you with sword and soul," Clint said before the throne. "I ask now for the hand of Princess Anne." The court erupted. Nobles shouted, priests protested. A general could not wed a princess. A farmer's son could not climb the throne. The king's face darkened, his oath turned to iron chains. "You dare?" he thundered. "You ask for my blood to be mingled with yours?" Clint's voice was steady. "I dare because you swore. I dare because I bled when none else would. You owe me, my king. And debts must be paid." And so the kingdom split in two, not between foreign invaders, but between throne and sword. Princess Anne was no stranger to politics. She knew her father's pride was wounded deeper than any blade could cut. Yet she also knew of Clint's deeds, his honor, and his loyalty. The court called him ambitious, dangerous, unworthy. But Anne had seen the truth, how soldiers cheered his name, how peasants blessed him when he passed. In secret, she felt no disgust at his claim. Only curiosity. And a spark of admiration. But the king would not yield. "You may have gold. You may have lands. You may have titles. But my daughter is the jewel of Arathorn. She will not be bartered to a commoner, even a decorated one." Clint bowed, but his eyes were fire. "Then you break your oath." The insult could not be undone. Clint left the palace with his loyal soldiers, and the kingdom began to fracture. Some whispered that he was right, that a king's word should be law even to himself. Others spat that Clint was a traitor, using honor as a cloak for ambition. When Clint gathered men to his banner, calling it the Army of the Oath, the king knew war had come. Princess Anne became the kingdom's most precious prize, and its most dangerous secret. For while she remained in the palace, her fate was not hers to choose. She was watched day and night, her every move measured like coin on a scale. But messages have wings. Clint's allies smuggled letters into the palace, letters written in the general's bold hand. "I will claim what was promised. Not to shame you, but to honor you. Not as a prize, but as a queen." Anna's heart stirred. Was it ambition? Or did he truly mean the words? She did not know. But she began to imagine a world beyond her father's cage, a world where she was not traded like gold between thrones. When she secretly replied, "If you come for me, come as a man, not as a conqueror," she sealed her place in history. The war erupted swift and merciless. Clint's army of the oath swept through the eastern provinces, gathering peasants, soldiers, and lords who despised the king's arrogance. They painted their banners crimson, the color of blood spilled in broken promises. The king rallied his own forces, summoning allies from across the realm. Brother fought brother, knight fought farmer, and the land drowned in its own grief. Through it all, the name on every tongue was Anne. To Clint's soldiers, she was the rightful queen, the symbol of a debt honored. To the king's men, she was a hostage, a crown jewel to be defended at all costs. And Anne herself? She became the quiet storm at the center of it all. Though she was still under her father's guard, she felt the weight of Clint's rebellion pressing closer. Each battle he won brought him nearer. And in her heart, fear began to mix with something far more dangerous: hope. At last, the inevitable came. Clint's forces surrounded the capital. For weeks, fire rained upon its walls, until the once mighty city trembled on the edge of collapse. The king, desperate, summoned Anne. His face was gaunt, his crown heavy. "You are mine to protect," he said. Not his to claim. Anne, for the first time, defied him. "You speak of protection, father, but I am a pawn to you. He at least sees me as more." The king struck her. Tears burned her eyes, but she did not bow. That night, Clint stormed the palace gates. His soldiers poured in, steel against steel, until the throne room shook with battle. At its heart stood Clint, his sword gleaming, facing the king himself. "Yield," Clint thundered, blade drawn. "Keep your crown, keep your throne, but give me Anne, and let the debt be paid." The king's laughter was bitter. "You are a soldier. Nothing more. You will never have her." But then Anne stepped forward. Her voice cut sharper than any blade. "Enough." The hall froze. She walked between them, her gown torn from the chaos, her eyes bright with fire. "Father, you swore an oath. Clint, you demand its payment. But I am not coin. I am not prize. I will choose." Both men fell silent. The court held its breath. And turned to Clint. "Do you seek me for ambition, or for love?" Clint's scarred hand trembled. For all his strength, he looked at her not as a conqueror, but as a man laid bare. "I seek you because without you, victory is ash in my mouth. I seek you because I cannot forget the night you looked at me as though I were more than steel." And faced the court. "Then I choose him." What happened next is told in many ways. Some say the king tried to strike her down, and Clint killed him where he stood. Others claim the king, broken by his daughter's words, laid aside his crown and fled into exile. But what is certain is this: General Clint wed Princess Anne, and from their union rose a new dynasty, born not of birthright, but of blood, battle, and choice. The nobles who despised him could not deny the will of the people, and the peasants who adored him crowned and their queen. And though their reign was forged in rebellion, it became a legend. For theirs was not merely the story of war, it was the story of a debt, an oath, and the dangerous truth that love can be both weapon and salvation.